Well, I finally made it back to the United States. And over the last 2 months, I've got to say that it has been really exciting that one of my favorite games of all time is finally getting a massive update. That game is Flight Simulator. What we're going to do today is we're going to look at a little bit of footage. We're going to make a small flight from Las Vegas into Orange County, California. And the whole goal of this is to take a look at some of the iconic things in these two areas. And next week, the new Flight Simulator launches, and I've already bought a copy. And my goal is to make the exact same flight using the new Flight Simulator, and we're going to start up the aircraft. We're going to use even the same aircraft, the Beechcraft Baron 58. We're going to make sure that we try this in a way that actually gives us a chance to see the big differences between the two videos. Both, in general, the main flight will be the same. I'm going to speed up the footage here just to make the video a little bit shorter. And what I will do is I will also make sure that when I fly over Las Vegas, I'll slow it down to normal speed. And we'll look at the old Las Vegas from 2006 that Flight Simulator X managed to put into the game. And then we will look at Orange County and a little bit of the features there. Especially, we're going to fly over Disneyland, and we're going to look at what they rendered for Disneyland in 2006 when Flight Simulator was launched. From there, it gets really simple. We're going to get the new Flight Simulator sometime next week. And I'll make the same flight. I'll make sure I fly over Las Vegas in a similar way from the north end of the strip to the south end of the strip. And I'm excited to see what the big changes are and how this will affect the future of flight simming. Microsoft is going for the fences on this one. And it is interesting to see just how vastly different that Microsoft has been able to make this new flight simulator. They've gone through everything they could. Like, I've watched documentaries on them sending sound crews to each of the aircraft that they have in the launch game and recording every possible sound they could, from outside and inside, the sounds of the engines, sounds of the flaps, sounds of the doors opening and closing, but doors won't be available on launch. And they've tried to make it so that they've tried to make it so that the aircraft will be recognizable if you ever sit in a real version of the same aircraft. And I think that Flight Simulator is hoping that to a small degree that you might be able to use Flight Simulator as an official method of getting flight time hours as a pilot. I don't know if that will actually happen, but it would be very fascinating if they did actually, if the FAA did approve the newest flight simulators to be a viable alternative, that rather than spending massive amounts of money to just get flight time hours, if you were to actually fly Flight Simulator on realism, full realism, you'd be able to get a similar experience. I mean, the side non-experience would be that you would not be getting like the G-force experiences of what it feels like to stall or put the aircraft in a downward dive and go into a 0G moment. You couldn't do that in your house. But I think that there's a lot of chance for many of these little opportunities, like within simulations now, that we could seriously start teaching real world experiences and get people the ability to get these experiences for a lower cost. That being said, here we go. We're leaving Las Vegas now. You could tell that Las Vegas of the Flight Simulator X was a little bit simple. They did try to hand builds like places like Caesar's Palace and the Bellagio, and you could could identify the Luxor very well, and at night the Luxor even has the light going out of it. It's really kind of well done. For many years, I felt like this was one of the best flight simulators I could get my hands on. I made sure to always have it was with Flight Simulator that I actually wanted to get a HOTAS, a hand-on throttle and stick, so that I could have a throttle quadrant to be able to control the aircraft with. And while I still use a single stick joystick for my flights, I haven't gone over to a yoke for general aviation aircraft, I think that I'm still enjoying the semi-realism I'm able to produce, even with the old FSX. Now, I mentioned earlier that Flight Simulator is swinging for the fences with this newest Flight Simulator. I would have loved to have been part of the beta and alpha testing, but I missed out on the invite for that. It could have possibly been sent to my email, but apparently for some odd reason, Microsoft's own email was being marked as junk mail, and I never saw it, and I didn't even know that it might have been marked as junk mail until just about 3 or 4 weeks ago, when I read on a forum that sometimes the emails were being marked as junk mail. So if I had been invited to the alpha and the pre-alpha, I really did miss out. And it does boil me a little bit, but it still is very exciting to be at this point, just a few days before the launch of the newest Flight Simulator. And from the footage that I've been able to see, because Microsoft recently allowed those alpha and beta testers to start posting footage of their flights within Flight Simulator. And I agree that they've done a massively good job of changing how Flight Simulator will be seen and acted upon from here on out. When you look at it, they integrated Bing Maps, the ground visuals of Bing Maps, into the game, and they made it so that your game will automatically stream the ground as you're flying into the area. So you don't have to store all the footage and all the ground network on your computer. There's a chunk of about 200 gigs that you have to store on your computer, but that's mainly the game and your main aircraft and the physics involved. But beyond that, they also have, in addition to using a semi-AI program to recognize buildings and draw a similar building as a 3D raised building out of the ground, they have gone through and handcrafted cities and airports throughout the world. And granted, they're not very many, but they've done some amazing jobs on the 20 or 30 that they're going to post on opening day. And the sheer amount of work that they put into making this feel like a real world. They also rewrote the physics engine of Flight Simulator so that it's no longer just a single point within the aircraft that's being affected by air and everything. They now have thousands of points across the wings and body of the aircraft that are affected by wind, air, rain, snow. Even the propeller will make realistic effects and shakes of the aircraft, and it will be an awesome change and upgrade to our experience so far. From there, it just boils down to you got to make sure that you have enough graphics power, and you've got to make sure you have enough space. I mean, 200 gigs is, for some people, quite a bit of space to have to allot for a computer game. But when you look deeper into the idea, Flight Simulator is now turning into a game that not only would you be able to play passively, but those who are very enthusiasts and deep into the interest in the hobby of flying, they'll be able to have a realistic sensation that will help them feel like they're getting the amount of flying that they want in their lives, as well as doing practices and testing out ways of doing things that may or may not have worked in the past. So, looking at the old engine versus what we're about to receive, it's going to be awesome. I'm going to make sure that I fly into clouds, and I'm going to test out a variety of things. I may even change the weather from real world weather to something that will give us rain along the flight when we do this flight again next week. And I want to test out the engine and see how it works. What you've seen in this flight has all been quote unquote real world weather, which was a program that Microsoft had written that would download the weather based off of what was going on. I don't know how their algorithm does it, but it would try to reproduce the weather similar to what was going on outside. So in a few times that I've tested it, it was raining outside, and when I started up the game and I went to the near airport that was outside, it was raining, and it actually worked. But I did notice that the computer game didn't really, the old Flight Simulator X just didn't quite give you the real sensation that you were flying through rain. Whereas when I look at some of the YouTubers that have started posting videos of going through weather events and everything, it looks phenomenal. It looks like actual rain is hitting the windshield and rubbing off in a direction that would make sense. Almost like when you're driving down the freeway at 70 miles an hour, and in a rainstorm, you'll see the rain hit your windshield and it will start going up over your car. So, now that we're getting near the end of the flight, I skipped over a little bit and I cut out a little bit of the fluff as we went over the Mojave Desert. I wanted to give you guys more of the takeoff, landing, and a little look-see at how Los Angeles and Las Vegas looked, and we'll see how vastly different taxiing and moving around in the aircraft and how the aircraft even looks when we get to the next iteration of Flight Simulator next week. I am excited for getting things started again. This is the first video after my little hiatus / contracted work where I got sent to the far side of the planet to help out with several teams over there. So that being said, we're getting things started again. We will be posting new videos on Fridays. I don't know if I'm going to get them out every Friday morning, but I will try to get them out on Fridays regardless of, even if I have to work late into the night on Friday. I'm going to try to get it before Saturday starts. You'll see a video. And, well, I'm back. So let's see how things go. We're starting out with a couple of gameplays, and I do plan on doing that game review of the Need for Speed game that I mentioned near one of the first videos that I did. So get ready for that. There's exciting content coming down the road. In the meantime, have a good day. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye now.